Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump's announced the U.S. is reinstating its naval blockade of Iranian ports as the U.S. and Iran move closer to a return to all-out war. The U.S. has carried out another night of strikes on Iran, with U.S. Central Command saying it targeted, quote, coastal defense systems, missile and drone sites, and maritime capabilities, unquote. In addition, Trump has notified Congress that the U.S. is again at war with Iran, giving him another 60 days to attack Iran without congressional approval. Iran retaliated by attacking U.S. military sites in Bahrain and Jordan. In addition, Iran struck 2 oil tankers from the United Arab Emirates. An Indian crew member was killed, several others injured. While Iran maintains that it controls the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump announced a new plan for the U.S. to begin imposing a 20% fee on oil tankers and other ships passing through the strait. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote, quote, "The USA will be from this point forward known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait," unquote. Trump gave no details about how this would actually be accomplished. At the White House, Trump claimed the U.S. would end up controlling the entire strait.
They're wired differently, and we're not going to put up with it. We are just going forward. We're attacking them tonight. We're taking out all of their capability for anything having to do with the strait, with the Hormuz Strait. And I think in the end, we will end up just controlling the whole thing.
Tensions are escalating between Houthi forces in Yemen and Saudi Arabia, testing a 4-year truce. On Monday, the Houthis, who are aligned with Iran, fired missiles at Saudi Arabia's international airport in Aba. Earlier in the day, the Houthis accused Saudi Arabia of bombing the international airport in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a. The Saudi-backed Yemeni government took responsibility for bombing the airport in Sana'a, saying it was done to prevent an Iranian aircraft from landing. Immigration agents fatally shot a 26-year-old Colombian man on Monday as he was driving to work in Biddeford, Maine. The man has been identified as Juan Sebastián Guerrero, the father of a 3-year-old daughter. One witness reported seeing agents drag Guerrero from his car after the shooting. One eyewitness said, quote, "He was bleeding profusely from the head. He was talking. He said, 'I tried to stop.'" At least 4 bullet holes were seen in the car's windshield. After the shooting, another neighbor said she heard a woman screaming at immigration agents, "You took her dad. You took her dad," unquote. The woman was with a young girl dressed in bluey pajamas who is believed to be Guerrero's 3-year-old daughter. Another neighbor said, quote, "I watched a wife fall to her knees looking at her husband's dead body on the ground. I watched a little girl crying with a little pink backpack on because she's never going to see her father again," unquote. Senator Angus King's office said the Department of Homeland Security has confirmed Juan Sebastián Guerrero was not the target of any warrant. The Maine Immigrants' Rights Coalition said Guerrero was authorized to work in the United States and had been issued a Social Security number. His death prompted protests across Maine, including outside the Maine offices of Republican Senator Susan Collins. The killing of Juan Sebastián Guerrero comes just a week after an ICE agent in Houston fatally shot Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, a 52-year-old Mexican father of 3 who'd lived in the United States for decades. The killings come amidst a major surge in ICE activity. ICE reported making 10,000 arrests over a 5-day period in late June. That's 2,000 arrests a day. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum is calling for criminal investigations into the deaths of 17 Mexicans in the United States amidst President Trump's sweeping immigrant crackdown. 14 of the Mexicans died in immigration detention, while 3 were killed by U.S. agents, including Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent in Houston last week. Sheinbaum spoke Monday in Mexico City.
I want to tell you that today the Foreign Ministry will file complaints with the U.S. Department of Justice and state prosecutors' offices in the United States over the deaths of 17 Mexican nationals, including the most recent one who was practically executed.
A federal judge has blasted President Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS, saying it was filed for improper purposes and that it was an attempt to use the court, quote, to earmark billions of dollars from American taxpayers, unquote. The judge also penalized Trump's lawyers, including Attorney General Todd Blanche, for manipulating the judicial process by filing the lawsuit against the IRS over Trump's leaked tax returns. The lawsuit ended in a settlement that granted President Trump immunity from future tax audits and initially created a nearly $1.8 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund to compensate Trump's allies. An audit would have hit President Trump with a $100 million tax bill if the IRS found wrongdoing. After substantial public outcry, including from Republican officials, the Trump administration eventually abandoned the anti-weaponization fund. On Monday, federal judge Kathleen Williams stated in her ruling that the government cannot claim that its settlement with President Trump was conducted as a part of a legitimate legal process. Judge Williams also requested that a copy of the order be sent to the New York bar, where Attorney General Blanche is a member and is currently facing multiple ethics complaints. There was a planned confirmation hearing for Todd Blanche as Attorney General this week in the Senate. 12 Democratic-led states have sued to block Paramount Skydance's $111 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount Skydance is run by David Ellison, whose father, Larry Ellison, is the billionaire founder of Oracle and a prominent ally and financial backer of President Trump. Under the proposed deal, CNN and CBS News, streaming services HBO Max and Paramount Plus, as well as film and television studios, would all be combined under a single entity controlled by the Ellisons. This is California Attorney General Rob Bonta.
This $110 billion proposed merger, the largest merger in Hollywood history, would extinguish competition. It would result in higher prices, lower content quality, and fewer movies and TV shows. I'm proud to lead 12 attorneys general across the country to put an end to a merger that, let's just say it simply, breaks the law. It hurts an industry that touches the lives of Americans daily and brings so much to the state of California.
The UK is also weighing whether to sue to take on the proposed merger between Paramount Skydance and Warner Brothers Discovery. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced new plans for the United States to, quote, systematically disable, unquote, the International Criminal Court brick by brick. On Monday, Rubio published an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal and posted a short video attacking the tribunal at The Hague.
The ICC and its friends are waging a war against our country, not with bullets or missiles, but with statutes and compacts and the force of so-called international law.
Last year, the Trump administration imposed sweeping economic and travel sanctions on ICC judges and prosecutors after the court issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for committing war crimes in Gaza. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced a new joint task force with the Justice Department to, quote, identify and prosecute, unquote, leaks to the press. In a video posted on social media, Hegseth thanked Attorney General Todd Blanche, saying
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. I know that was a lot on the pre-show, and I wanted to let those headlines run because some days the headlines themselves make the argument. What do we hear? We heard a naval blockade, another expansion of war with Iran, two fathers killed by immigration agents, a federal judge accusing the government of manipulating the legal process, another massive concentration of media power, and an attack on the International Criminal Court, and now the Pentagon and Justice Department joining forces to hunt down leaks to the press. That was just the first 10 minutes, all right? So take a breath. I know that's what I'm going to do. Take a drink too. And take some time to say hello to those in the room. We got Lois Hanson. Thank you for joining us. Mike Coletti. Susan Sherry. Hello. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Mark Freestone. Catherine Wellingston. And Dr. J's Sanity Space. Let's see, we got Catherine Worth joined us. Deborah, I don't know if you guys are still in the room. You joined us earlier, but if you're still here, thank you for joining us. Gloria J. Maloney and Jan Mook. Let's just say Jan M. Leave it at that. Not trying to mangle someone's name. What are we doing here? What am I doing here? Listen, tonight, we're gonna slow it down, okay? Hold on here. Anyway, we're gonna slow it down and concentrate on one part of that avalanche you heard in the beginning. All right. Within 1 week, immigration agents killed 2 men. Right. And reportedly driving to work. We got Lorenzo Salgado, right, in Houston. Joan, Sebastián, Durán, Guerrero, and Biddeford, Maine. Both of them were fathers. All right. And now they're dead. So we're gonna watch the reporting. I'm getting it set up right now here, and we're gonna pause when the machinery reveals itself, and then at the end of tonight's program, I have a separate update on James Talarico and the black voters. His campaign says it needs to win Texas. So let's go ahead and begin in Houston. And thank you for the likes. Anyone in the room, go ahead and hit that, smash that heart button. Okay, this is going to be from Democracy Now! And any
We
day
begin
now.
today's
There we
show
go.
with the fatal shooting of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, the 52-year-old father, husband, small business owner, originally from Mexico, killed by an ICE agent last Tuesday in Houston, Texas, during his early morning commute to work at a construction site. First-hand accounts from the men who were also in his van that morning continue to refute claims by ICE officials that Araujo allegedly posed a threat to the agents that attempted to ram them with his van. The three men are currently detained by ICE and are facing deportation. They're all reportedly undocumented from Mexico and had lived in the U.S. for decades. The New York Times reports two of them spoke at length with Democratic Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, whose district includes Houston, and told her that the shot that killed Araujo was fired into the front passenger side window. One of the men is Araujo's younger brother, Victor Salgado Araujo. The Department of Homeland Security last week acknowledged that Lorenzo Araujo was targeted by mistake and that federal agents were in fact searching for a different person. This all comes as his family and advocates are demanding an independent investigation amidst fears the Trump administration will attempt to conceal or tamper with evidence. ICE says none of the agents involved were wearing body cameras at the time of Araujo's killing. The New York Times reports there have been at least 22 shootings involving federal immigration officers since Trump returned to office. 6 people, including 3 U.S. citizens, have been killed. This all comes as the White House has demanded an increase in immigration detentions, ordering ICE officials to make at least 2,000 arrests per day. At the end of June, beginning of July, there were 10,000 arrests in 5 days. For more, we go to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Juan Proaño, CEO of LULAC, the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization in the United States. Juan, thanks so much for joining us. You were there in Houston. Now you're in Washington. Can you talk about what we understand at this point happened to Lorenzo Araujo?
Okay, pause right there. Now, before we hear his answer, hold on to the facts already placed on the table, all right? Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was a 52-year-old father, husband, and small business owner driving to a construction job, okay? The Department of Homeland Security later acknowledged that he was targeted by mistake, okay? 3 men who were inside that van are now detained by ICE, okay? These 3 men may be the only direct witnesses to the shooting, and the agents involved were reportedly operating without body cameras. That means the government entered this story holding the guns, controlling the scene, detaining the witnesses, and possessing much of the evidence. Now, I want you to listen carefully here to how Juan, what's his name? Juan Proaño describes the operation and how the government accounts began changing.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for having me, and good morning, Juan. I think, it's been widely reported. My perspective is that ICE was casing Magnolia Park, which is a 97% Hispanic community. They were hunting for Latinos. They saw a brown man, a Latino man, driving a work truck, and they followed suit. We all know now what the deadly consequences of that are, and ICE has been, walking back every statement that they've made. They said initially it was a target enforcement action. They said that he used his vehicle as a deadly weapon. They said that, the officers acted basically in self-defense. And they've now retracted, obviously, that he was not the target. But then they stated that there were 2 other men that were targeted, and they let slip that those men were of Guatemalan descent. But everyone in that van was actually a Mexican national. There was no damage to the front end of the vehicle, the back end of the vehicle, the side panels. There's a black skid mark from the black SUV that they used to pin that car to the sidewalk. And I think most egregious of all those things was the fact that once he was on the ground prone, we've seen the videos, we've seen his cries for help. He knew that he was dying. They waited almost 20 to 30 minutes to get him an ambulance to take him to the hospital. And in that time, they took all of his personal identifiable information off of his person. So when he was admitted into the hospital, they admitted him as a John Doe. Now, the family was there. Ronaldo was there. He was on site. I've seen the text messages with the FBI and the ICE agent between the two men. And they really just strung him along for hours until finally sending him to the hospital. Family had a hard time even finding him, because when they arrived at the hospital, they said that there was no Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in their manifest, in their records. It took several hours more for them to make the connection between the two men. And he wasn't told that his father passed away until 3 o'clock, more than 6 hours later. And sadly, because he was admitted as a John Doe, they then family had to go through extra hoops. They had to do a biometric forensics examination to confirm he is who we always knew he was, Lorenzo. And they didn't actually get the final determination, which was that he was killed, and it was a homicide, until the following day, almost 24 hours later. A really tragic event, and it was a senseless murder on the streets of Houston.
Okay, according to the account we just heard, the damage continued after the gunfire. Okay, Priano says Lorenzo remained on the ground waiting for medical attention. He says identifying information was removed from Lorenzo's body. He says Lorenzo arrived at the hospital as a John Doe, and that means his family couldn't even find him. Think about that. A man leaves home for work. His family knows something has happened, and the federal government has control of the whole scene. Okay, that hospital says it has no patient under his name. His son spends hours trying to locate his father, and then learns that his father is dead. The erasure became physical in this case. His name disappeared from the paperwork while his family was looking for him. You know, that allegation requires a real investigation. Okay, it also shows why independent evidence matters here. And an agency can't be allowed to create the emergency, control the information, and then decide what the public is permitted to know. Play the video.
And Juan Proaño, what's been the involvement of the Houston Police Department in this? Houston Police Chief Noé Diaz was supposed to meet with the FBI.
Well, we've been working very closely with the District Attorney's Office, with Sean Tier. I was there at the initial meeting. I found him to be very sincere in his condolences to the family. I found him to be very much a straight shooter and honest. And he flat out told me that they would be doing an independent investigation. They would be moving forward aggressively in doing so. But the main limiting factor was going to be cooperation of the federal agencies involved. There are multiple strings of investigation. So now we have the District Attorney General that's doing an investigation. You have the FBI that's doing an investigation. You have the DHS Inspector General that's doing an investigation. And the last investigation to be announced recently was that of Mayor Whitmer. For days and days and days, he refused to act, saying that they had no purview over the shooting because HPD basically was not involved. And while that may be true, the fact of the matter is that a resident of Houston was killed on Canal Street. And my understanding is whenever there's a shooting, whenever there's a murder, the police actually investigate. So I'm glad that they are now moving towards a full investigation. But my expectation is that their investigation will similarly be hampered by DHS, by the federal agencies, and we already know 6 days later, a week now basically since his senseless death, that they have turned over nothing at all. No evidence, not the van.
Okay, stop right there. There are several investigations. That sounds impressive until you ask who controls the evidence, okay? The district attorney can announce an investigation, the FBI can announce an investigation, the DHS inspector general can announce an investigation. Houston can announce an investigation, but an investigation without access becomes a press release. So, according to Proano, local investigations were still waiting for the van. Lorenzo's possession and other evidence controlled by federal agencies. That's that's the machinery right there behind the phrase. What an ongoing investigation. The public hears accountability. The agency hears delay. Evidence belongs to the case. Okay, it does not belong to the agency being investigated. Play the tape.
Not his possessions, nothing at all.
And why weren't the agents wearing body cameras? Haven't federal authorities promised to equip ICE agents with body cameras?
Well, they certainly have all the money and all the resources in the world to do that. $170 billion allocation through the big, beautiful bill, another $70 billion to help carry through funding through the end of President Trump's term. My understanding is that certain states have different regulations. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, they're required to actually have body cam footage. This is Texas. It's a red state. They clearly have been slow walking the process and will probably fight it tooth and nail. So it's something that should be a national mandate at this point. Police officers are required to do so. ICE agency has, it went from 12,000 to 22,000 employees. There's absolutely no reason from a financial perspective, from a functional or implementation perspective, that they couldn't do this. And certainly our country would benefit from the transparency that would come from this.
And can you talk about Greg Abbott, the well-known Trump ally, Texas governor, how he has weighed in on this one, Proanya?
He's been silent. I mean, he has said nothing about it. Paxton has been on vacation in Europe. He has said nothing about it at all. Representative Sylvia Garcia has been an incredible advocate for the family, and the Houston community is rallying around her and rallying around the Salgado family as well. And so what you would expect, Amy, silence from the right, outrage from our progressive democratic community, and Latinos have been rising up. They've been rising up out in the community in Houston. We ran a petition that has over 165,000 people who signed it. I'd encourage folks to go to the lulac.org website to do the same. Lorenzo's family has been fortunate enough to raise $500,000 on GoFundMe, but that will not go very far. Lorenzo was the primary provider for his family. He was paying and has paid for his three young sons to go through university, and he still has one that's in university. And so I don't believe that there will be justice here. There's nothing that will bring him back, and the only thing that we can hope for is full accountability.
And Juan, what about the three men who were in the van with Lorenzo Salgado? What's their situation right now?
So they are in, they're in Conroe, Texas, and so, we have been engaged with them. I was actually on with Ruby Powers last night, and we were chatting. So she's representing Victor. The other two men have a different attorney. Initially, they were being pressured to sign self-deportation orders. We talked with the families and discouraged them from doing so, but it was a significant amount of pressure. My initial sense was that they were inclined to do so, first and foremost because they are undocumented, second of all because they have mixed status family households, and we're concerned about bringing any additional legal perjury prosecution, if you will, against their own family members. And in a way, it could have been the easy way out for them. But the fact of the matter is that we need them to stay in the United States. They are witnesses to a crime and the only witnesses to what actually happened on that day. Of all the video footage that we've collected, nothing actually shows the actual shooting itself. And so that's.
So this may be the most important part of the Houston story here, okay? The men inside that van are witnesses. They are also immigration. They are also they're also in immigration detention. So now listen, Prolano says they face pressure to sign self-deportation papers. So the same enforcement system connected to the operation now has physical control over the people who may contradict the official story. This is bigger than immigration status. This is an evidence preservation issue. This is a witness access issue. This is a due process issue. A witness cannot provide meaningful testimony from outside the country after being rapidly removed by the agency connected to the incident. All right? These men need lawyers. Investigators need access to them. Their testimony needs to be recorded and preserved. And any decision about their immigration cases must be separated from pressure connected to this investigation. Play the video.
It's one thing that we lack in this particular case.
And Juan Perano, before we go, we're going to go up to Biddeford, Maine for our next segment. But you are the CEO of the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization in the United States. You represent the whole country. And yet another Latin American immigrant, this person, 26 years old, apparently had work authorization. Not that that should be an issue when it comes to being shot dead in the streets, was shot dead as he drove, the father of a 3-year-old, as he drove to work. Your final comments on reeling from this one in Houston, this killing, to what's happened in Biddeford.
Well, thank you, Amy. I have to tell you that these both have hit me really hard. Lorenzo was 1 year younger than I am. He was 52. I'm 53. Joan in Biddeford, Sebastián is Colombian. My mother's from Colombia. My family is from Colombia. 26 years old, as you said, a father of a young girl, 3 years old, and a beautiful wife. And it's a senseless tragedy. The same circumstances, Amy. He was initially targeted by mistake, okay? The officers were not in any jeopardy at all. They actually were the aggressors here, trying to open the vehicle, as he plainly said he was trying to actually stop. The fear in the community is prevalent. And it's my honest belief, and if you take a look at the numbers, that they are targeting Latino men. Of all the men, of all the people currently in detention, 80 to 90% of them are Hispanic men, predominantly from Mexico, Honduras, Venezuela, Nicaragua. It is the majority, significant majority, and the escalation has been significant. Biddeford is a small town. It is 22,000 people. It has about 550 Hispanics. If they are hunting immigrants in Biddeford, Maine, and in Houston, just imagine what they're doing across the country. It has been underreported since the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Let's be clear about that. You mentioned early on, right? 2,000 men, 2,000 detentions over the course of a week, 2,000 per day. But we haven't raised this enough. It is a critical moment in this country. We are not leading. This is not leadership, and it is time to demand change.
Juan Perano, we thank you.
So Houston is one of the largest cities in America, okay? Biddeford, Maine is a city roughly 22,000 people. Rihanna's warning is that the same machinery reached both places. That tells us this cannot be dismissed as one reckless operation, one confused team, or one terrible morning. The administration demanded numbers. ICE was ordered to produce thousands of arrests a day. Once the number becomes the mission, every neighborhood becomes a hunting ground and every vehicle becomes a possible statistic. Now, that doesn't answer what happened in Houston. It explains the pressure surrounding it. Let just let the remainder of this video play here.
Thank you for being with us. CEO of LULAC, the oldest, largest Latino civil rights organization in the United States, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
All right, y'all. 1 week later, the same country woke up to another dead father. This time in Biddeford, Maine. Joan Sebastián Durán Guerrero was 26 years old. He was Colombian. He had a wife and a 3-year-old daughter. He was reportedly driving to work. Okay, the federal government later confirmed that he was not the target of the operation. Before we watch the next video, I need to take a breath. Man, this is a lot. Let me go ahead and greet those who just joined us in the room. We got Susan Moore, Lynette, Kathleen Telefuse, Marilyn Corin, and Jane Delosier. And Lynette's got a lot to say. Hey, if you've got something to say, just go ahead and hit me up. I'm going to try to keep up with the chats here. Got 2 chats going, YouTube and Substack. Okay, we got Lynette. Lynette says, what did she say? Oh, we got Chris Resists. Thank you, Chris. Hello to you too. And let me read here. Lynette says, say his name, Joan Sebastián Guerrero. Say his name. I just said it. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, Renee Good, Alex Pretty, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, Joan Sebastián Guerrero. These are all people who have been harmed at the hands of ICE. Lynette asked me a question. Would you want to work with these officers? Hell no. This is a culture of policing, which is already on steroids, right? It's steroids times 10. You know, I can. And I'll be honest with you, okay? The morning brief, roll call, can get kind of. Now, most of it, 99% of it is routine, but it can get kind of cynical, salty, and even funny. Some of the biggest laughs I've had is, at roll call where we were, releasing stress, going over calls of service we had to take. A lot of these calls are pretty funny, okay? And a lot of them are pretty tragic as well. So, working in that kind of environment where you know everybody hates you, right? Where you are the enemy, where common folk view you as the enemy, okay? Even, I don't think politics matters that much. I don't care if you are a Republican or Democrat. Listen, a lot of people who voted for this were um, Latino members of the Republican Party, right? And I've run across a lot of them who have expressed a very, very, as you can imagine, this a lot of dissatisfaction. A lot of them are pissed off about um, the turn of events that have happened after. I'm not saying all of them voted for Trump, but a significant number of them voted for Trump. So even Republicans are your enemy. That has to be something that makes it hard for you to sleep. It's hard on your conscience. There's a lot of things about this job, about policing, that's hard enough. And when you layer on top of it the uh just the amount of hatred coming from regular citizens, I just don't think it's that is the kind of mental health strain that you want to put yourself under for 20 years. Get out of here. I don't think I could make it 1 year, man. Let's see, what do we got here? Probably a lot of dark and gallows humor. Well, that's in any military or paramilitary organization. Wherever you have a lot of stress, you're going to have gallows humor, okay? Lynette says, oh, hey, Lynette. Okay, hey. Oh, Chris, you're talking to, I think Chris is flirting with everybody in the room here. Let me get back to the video. So let's see. We're going to take it to Maine, I believe. Let's just go ahead and play the video and see what we got.
Thousand arrests in 5 days. For more, we go to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Juan Proaño, CEO of LULAC, the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization in the United States. Juan, thanks so much for joining us. You were there in Houston. Now you're in Washington. Can you talk about what we understand at this point happened to Lorenzo Araujo?
Well, Amy, thank you so much for having me, and good morning, Juan. I think, it's been widely reported. My perspective is that ICE was casing Magnolia Park, which is a 97% Hispanic community. They were hunting for Latinos. They saw a brown man, a Latino man, driving a work truck, and they followed suit. We all know now what the deadly consequences of that is, and certainly our country would benefit 50 Hispanics.
Screaming at immigration agents.
Is that we need them to look at the numbers that they are targeting Latino men. Of all the people currently
note to the editor.
80 to 90% of them are Hispanic. It is a critical moment.
We're going to have to cut
country.
all of that out.
We are not leading. This is not leadership, and it is time to demand change.
Juan Proaño, we thank you for being with us. CEO of LULAC, the oldest, largest Latino civil rights organization in the United States, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks for watching Democracy Now!
Now we're going to go to Maine.
Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez as we turn to Maine, where immigration agents fatally shot a 26-year-old Colombian man on Monday as he drove to work in the city of Biddeford. The man has been identified as Joan Sebastián Guerrero, the father of a 3-year-old daughter. One witness reported seeing agents dragging him from the car after the shooting, which was also visible in CCTV footage. Another eyewitness told the Portland Press-Herald, quote, "He was bleeding profusely from the head. He was talking. He said, 'I tried to stop.' At least 4 bullet holes were seen in the car's windshield. After the shooting, another neighbor said she heard a woman screaming at immigration agents, 'You took her dad, you took her dad.' The woman was with a young girl dressed in blue pajamas, who's believed to be Guerrero's 3-year-old daughter. Another neighbor said, quote, 'I watched a wife fall to her knees looking at her husband's dead body on the ground. I watched a little girl crying with a little pink backpack on because she's never going to see her father again,' unquote. Maine Senator Angus King's office said the Department of Homeland Security had confirmed that Joan Sebastián Guerrero was not the target of any warrant. The Maine Immigrants' Rights Coalition said he was authorized to work in the United States and had been issued a Social Security number. His death prompted protests across Maine, including outside the offices of Republican Senator Susan Collins. Last term, she was the deciding vote in approving 7.
Let's stop it right there. Oh, we'll get back to it. Look, a witness said Joan was bleeding from the head and repeating, "I tried to stop." His daughter reportedly arrived wearing the blue pajamas, right? A neighbor heard a woman screaming, "You took her dad." DHS confirmed he was not the target of the investigation. The Maine Immigrants' Rights Coalition said he had work authorization and a Social Security number. His immigration paperwork should never determine whether he gets to survive a traffic stop. Right? Those details right there, they still matter because the government reportedly uses status to shape public sympathy after somebody is harmed. Even that defense collapses here, all right? He was working through the process. He was authorized to work. He was driving to work. He was not the target. He was still shot. Play the video.
$80 billion more for ICE and Customs and Border Protection. The killing of Joan Sebastián Guerrero comes just a week after an ICE agent in Houston fatally shot Lorenzo Salgado Araujo. For more, we go to Maine, where we're joined by 2 guests. Isha Khan is the wife of Biddeford's mayor, Liam LaFountain. She joins us there. And in Waterville, Maine, we're joined by Nathan Bernard, a correspondent for Dropsite News. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Isha Khan, let's begin with you. Talk about what's happening in Biddeford, what you understood happened yesterday morning. I understand, and looking at the video through the day, that there wasn't even a crime scene set up. If you can tell us what you understand and the protests that have taken place and that are planned for today as well outside ICE offices in Scarborough.
The last 24 hours have been deeply painful and disturbing. Our community is hurting. A child lost her father, a woman lost her partner, and we have lost a neighbor of ours, and we are doing our best to find ways to heal and connect. Yesterday, throughout the day, there were various different gatherings, all folks from different backgrounds coming together peacefully, sharing their grief, their questions, and their worries. And knowing Maine, it's a small town, people are just disturbed and really shell-shocked to know that something like this can happen in our state, a very small state with a very small immigrant population. So this has been a time of grieving, especially in Biddeford. We are a mill city, which was built on the backs of immigrants, whether it is Irish, Catholics, Armenians. So I think just this hits home for a lot of our community members here in Biddeford.
Yes, and can you talk some about that history, that immigrant history in Biddeford? I understand the Albanian Muslims established one of the first mosques in the United States there in 1915.
That's correct. So I grew up in Texas, and my introduction to Maine was actually just that, walking around Biddeford, learning about the immigrant community who has helped build and shape this community. As a Muslim myself, this was the last place to find out that the first mosque in United States or in North America was here, just walking distance from where I live. And I think another thing I'll just mention here, what was so moving, and I think just the irony is less than about 100 years ago on the bridge we were all gathered yesterday and today again, is the exact bridge where KKK was coming from Saco, the neighboring town, into Biddeford. And it was a Biddeford community.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Pause right there. She said the KKK? Did she say the KKK? Man, that bridge itself, the bridge itself, it's like it's got a memory here, right? A century ago, people in that community stood together when the Ku Klux Klan attempted to march into Biddeford. Now, residents are gathering on the same ground to confront another campaign built around fear, targeting, and the classification of human beings as threats. This is why memory matters. History is an instrument. It catches the community what organized prosecution looks like before official language has finished cleaning it up. Okay, the uniforms changed, paperwork changes. The bridge apparently recognizes the procession. Play the tape.
Who stood side by side with their Catholic and Franco Catholic neighbors fighting against the KKK and the persecution. And that happened again last night and earlier yesterday, where communities from all backgrounds came together here in Biddeford, standing on that same bridge, asking and demanding justice for immigrants who are here today. Biddeford is one of the youngest cities in Maine, and this has just been so devastated. There are so many beautiful kids who play in our neighborhoods, and just hearing from some of the kids who are going to summer school didn't even want to get off the bus, just fearing that they don't want to be shot in the face. So this is deeply painful. It's an immigrant community and has been for centuries. And as we gathered, we're just finding ways to heal and ask for accountability on all accounts.
Now, Maine's Democratic Governor Janet Mills and its Republican Senator Susan Collins are both calling for investigations. But what kind of actions did they take before this shooting and holding ICE accountable?
I think this is something that Maine has been grappling since the beginning of this year, where we have seen just the increased surge in ICE agents and ICE presence throughout our community. And while I can't speak to what their, Senator Collins or Governor Mills are doing, I can say that what I have learned and I have seen is a lot of support from our community around this. Folks are gathering. In fact, knowing Biddeford and our community, we are a aging, Maine as a whole is an aging population, and a big chunk of our workforce relies on immigrants. And in January, when ICE agents started surging, that began to surge, a vast majority of people didn't show up. And we were at a breaking point where our hospitals were not able to operate. And it took Governor Mills, our elected officials, to work together to find ways to make sure our community feels safe. And we were given the impression that ICE is going away, but that was certainly and is certainly not the case. And yesterday was a strong reminder of what our elected officials need to do as we continue to move and for the survival of our state as we know it today.
Isha Khan is the wife of the Biddeford mayor. We're also joined by Nathan Bernard, who is a correspondent for Dropsite News. His most recent piece headlined in letter, Plattner Volunteer Network warns Dems nominee must back same agenda to win our full support. Why bring that in now with this tragedy today? Because, of course, what's happening now is happening on behalf of the U.S. government. So politics really matter right now. Nathan, if you can talk about what we know at this point. You have the information relayed by the independent Maine Senator Angus King that the 26-year-old Colombian man, Joan, had been given an order that he was not the target. Now, it was Angus King who released this and not the federal government originally. And then you have these mass protests in the midst of the senatorial race, and who is senator certainly matters, with Senator Collins being the deciding vote on the tens of billions more dollars that went to ICE and CBP. Can you talk about what the people who are running right now are saying and doing? Are they participating in the protests?
Yeah. There was a vigil in Portland where several of the candidates, Nirav Shah, Troy Jackson, both attended and gave speeches calling to abolish ICE. And
Nirav Shah is the former health
on the Plattner
official.
campaign.
Just to give global context for people who aren't following this closely, Nirav Shah is the former health official in Maine, and Troy Jackson is the logger in Maine, who has also announced he wants to run.
Yeah, Nirav Shah was our CDC director during the COVID pandemic. Troy Jackson was the former Senate president, a Democrat who, like you said, is a third-generation logger. I think there's a lot of angst. There's a lot of frustration with Susan Collins. Not only did she vote to fund ICE with another $70 billion, she was the deciding vote for that. And when that $70 billion passed, there was no accountability. I mean, just like we saw in Houston, the ICE agents there were not wearing body cameras.
There
the
you go,
ICE agents in Biddeford were not wearing
accountability.
body cameras. And just like Isha was talking about, this is the community. Community is having to watch these folks. Community is having to.
Look, Susan Collins cast a decisive vote for tens of billions of dollars in additional ICE and border enforcement funding. Then agents operated in her state without body cameras. That is what funding power without guardrails looks like. Congress had leverage. Congress could have demanded national body camera requirements. Congress could have demanded independent use of force reviews. Congress could have demanded transparent reporting on vehicle stops, shootings, injuries, mistaken targets, and deaths. Okay, the money moved faster than the accountability here. Okay, now elected officials are asking for investigations after a father was, killed dead in the street like an animal. Go ahead, play this tape.
To document ICE's actions. And a big push from the volunteers from the Plattner campaign and voters all across Maine are that they don't think there is a way to reform this agency. They think it needs to be abolished. They think that no more funding should go to ICE. And we see when more funding does come to ICE, what happens. The funding was just released. We now have a death, a tragic death in Houston. We have a tragic death in Biddeford, Maine, a big city and a small town in completely different parts of the United States. So I think people want to hold Susan Collins accountable for her role in this. And when we look at accountability again, DHS in Boston is now going to investigate what happened here in Maine. So we have DHS investigating DHS. It's a situation where all of the candidates that, no, I shouldn't say all the candidates.
Y'all, that's what you call me, myself, and I investigating me. How do you think that's going to turn out? Play the tape.
It's the majority of the candidates that are running right now know that if they're going to get the support of the 150,000 voters who just voted for the Plattner campaign, a platform of economic populism, progressivism, built from the grassroots, that they're going to have to express intent explicitly to end the mass deportation system that we have. So it's going to become a huge issue. It already was a huge issue here in January. There was an enormous rally in Lewiston, Maine, the day that Alex Preddy was killed under very similar circumstances. And we've seen so many instances of this across the country. And I really think that now that this has come to Maine in such a visceral, violent way, that it's going to become a huge issue in the Senate campaign.
And Nathan, you talked about back in January, that's when the Department of Homeland Security initiated Operation Catch of the Day in Maine. And you talk about the arrest that happened then, and also about the change from last year to this year in ICE tactics. Before they were doing well-publicized raids with Kristi Noem, the head of Homeland Security, actually participating and bringing the media with her. Now they're actually trying to do it more quietly, but at the same time ramp up the number of arrests per day?
Yeah, I mean, I believe Amy noted that the agency, ICE, is looking to make 2,000 arrests a day. And when Operation...
Okay, what is that? Operation Catch of the Day? You say 200, 2,000, 200? Listen to the ratio. Approximately, what was that? 200 people detained? Only about 10 or 11 reportedly identified as actual warrant targets. That's a drag then. And once again, the quota explains all of this behavior. 2,000 arrests a day. The mission becomes volume. Agents under a community seeking bodies that can satisfy a number. Families are separated. People are transferred out of state. Neighbors disappear. The government calls the operation targeted because that sounds controlled. Okay? The results are describing something much wider here. Now, before I forget, I'm going to get to the room here. This is the Substack room. I know we got the YouTube room, but you people on the YouTube side are quiet. If you've got anything you want to say or add to this, just go ahead and shoot me a comment here. We got a lot of chatter here in the room. I'm trying to keep up here. Chris Resists says, Susan Collins will likely come out and have serious concern. Yeah, that she's so fake and phony, man. Can't wait to get rid of her. And she won't do a effing thing. Chris, you are right. Lynette says the Trust Through Transparency Act is currently processed or proposed rather federal legislation. It would mandate that all immigration and customs enforcement officers separate body cameras during public-facing enforcement operations and implement disciplinary procedures. All right, all right. Turn up my light here. Okay, Chris says, Lynette, screw that. Let's just abolish them. Let all of them flounder and be unemployed. Now, I got some thoughts on that. Listen, you're talking about unleashing tens of thousands of people, angry MAGA. More than likely, these are MAGA people. I can't imagine someone who is liberally inclined would work that type of job. So you're talking about unleashing thousands and thousands of these men to be unemployed, sitting around in neighborhoods, doing what? Right? That sounds like a prescription for radicalization right there. Okay, remember, there's this connection between radicalization and violence and veterans returning from war, right? There was a big growth spurt with these right-wing groups, you know, KKK and so forth, after the Vietnam War, right? So you're telling me you're just going to take all of these trained paramilitary people with a paramilitary mindset and just say, go sit home? I do agree we need to abolish ICE, but we also need to look at the ramifications and effects of unleashing all of these people on our streets, and what are we going to do with them? We're going to hire them as police officers? Yeah. You want you know, someone who you would classify as a fascist, and they probably are fascists. Probably a lot of these people walking around with fascist tattoos. You want them to be Mr. Officer Friendly at your local police department? Nah. That we got to we've got to think through this. So let me finish reading this and get back to the video. See, Chris resists. He says they are already criminals. You drop them on the streets, they will just go back to being thugs. But at least then we can actually hold them accountable. Okay, you got a good point there, Chris. I like where you're heading with that. Lynette says, I agree, Carrie Grace. Claude back. See, Chris says, I disagree with all of these ICE agents. They all need to be out on the streets, or you can lock them up and put them in prison for treason. They get no job with firearms ever again. You know, how could you implement that nationally, right? I can already tell you right now, there are police departments who would they'll look at your application, see you are an ICE officer, and throw it in the trash. A lot of agencies are, we have this conception that, they're all they've all got each other's back. And that's not absolutely true, especially when you're talking about the typical city urban cop, NYPD up in the north versus the southern, maybe rural cop, especially down in the south. I've had many instances of, I've heard of many a story of a police officer at our agency up north, getting pulled over and read the riot act by officers down south who just don't like just don't, for some reason, just don't like city, that city cop mentality. And I'm sure there was some entitlement involved here. Like, why are you pulling me over? Hey, this is professional courtesy. Why are you giving me a ticket? So, there's that. I remember around the time I got hired at my agency, they were very suspicious of any NYPD officer. They were going to get their records and then background looked over 2, 3, 4, 5 times by investigators. So, this is going to be a mess that we're going to have on our hands. I can see a lot of officers just being picked up at some departments, being rejected by others. So, we might have to have some type of federal clearinghouse for all of these officers who are no longer employed. Okay, go ahead and play the video.
Catch of the day happened here in January when the surge happened. They detained somewhere around 200 people. Only, I believe, 10 or 11 of those people allegedly had any sort of target. They were the target of any sort of warrant from ICE. Many of them were immediately pulled from their families, sent to out-of-state detention centers, and it happened so rapidly, and in that time, a very public way. I mean, it's the same as in Minnesota, where it's as much of making a spectacle and a show of these detentions in the most disgusting, gruesome way possible to show that they're getting close to hitting their numbers, that it really hasn't, in my eyes, become any less public. Now, I know that Susan Collins took credit for ending Operation Catch of the Day. Back in January, she said that this was all going to come to an end, and she took credit for it ending. Yeah. On the back end of that, again, she funded another $70 billion to ICE without any strings attached. So those things are such at odds with one another, and even after the Operation Catch a Day slowed their tactics and operation, there were still hundreds of calls coming in about ICE in our communities. ICE never left Maine. And I think that what happened with Joan, Sebastián Guerrero is a perfect case of showing that they never left and they're just as violent. He was not the target of a warrant from ICE, not that it should matter, but he was literally just going to work in the morning to let his family have a dignified life, to put a roof over his 3-year-old daughter's head, his wife's head. There's so many, again, going back to community eyewitnesses accounts that have come out, not just on this case.
Kept hearing over and over again, ICE never left Maine. Its presence became quieter. The community continued seeing agents. The calls continued coming in. Then Joan, Sebastián, Durán, Guerrero left home for work and never returned. There's a particular cruelty in turning ordinary life into probable cause, okay? I mean, it's just, you got the work vehicle, an early morning commute, a man trying to provide for his wife and child. The government later confirms he was not the target, as though that sentence repairs anything. His daughter still has to grow up without her father. Let this video finish.
But across the months since January that have shown that ICE is still here, they're still active. And with the killing of Guerrero, it's so tragic that there's no way, aside from us, the people living in Maine, to show what happened here. So the operations never slowed, really. Maybe they become less public. They didn't become less violent.
We will continue to follow this and the so-called investigation that's taking place. Nathan Bernard, correspondent for Dropsite News, will link to your latest piece in letter. Plattner Volunteer Network warns Dems nominee must back same agenda to win our full support. And Isha Khan, we thank you so much for being with us, wife of the Biddeford mayor, speaking to us from Biddeford. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
ICE never left Maine, y'all. It just stopped announcing itself. Listen, now we're going to arrive at the policy change here. Reuters reports that ICE is suspending vehicle stops for immigration enforcement. That announcement right there came after the killings in Houston and Maine. So I want you to watch the wording in this next video closely. Okay, go ahead and play it.
And we are back with breaking news. Reuters reports that ICE is suspending vehicle stops for immigration enforcement. They are a massive driver of deportations. And this comes after ICE agents shot and killed another person, the second killing in just 1 week. Joan.
Okay, stop it right there. They suspended the tactic. Okay, that is significant. It also raises the obvious question. What did the government learn after the second death that it refused to confront after the first? A suspension is a policy response. It is not an explanation. It doesn't tell us why Lorenzo was shot. It doesn't tell us why Joan was shot. It doesn't tell us whether officers followed existing rules. It doesn't preserve the witnesses. It doesn't release the evidence. The tactic change after bodies accumulated. Now, keep listening because the discussion turns toward the pressure to produce arrests.
Sebastián, the 26-year-old Colombia native killed in Biddeford, Maine yesterday, was a delivery driver, husband, and father. According to a witness who spoke with MS Now, Sebastián's wife and young daughter were seen crying at the scene. Hours after the shooting became public knowledge, DHS released a statement saying ICE was conducting surveillance on a migrant facing a final order of removal when a person departed the residence in a car. ICE agents attempted to stop the vehicle, they say, and DHS says an officer opened fire, quote, fearing for public safety. But they have not provided any evidence to support those claims. The driver, who we now know was Sebastián, was hit by gunfire and later died. Maine Senator Angus King says DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin has since told him that Sebastián wasn't the intended target of the operation. A nearby surveillance camera captured video showing the moments after the shooting. And I have a warning, it is difficult to watch. Federal agents can be seen opening the car door and dragging an unresponsive man onto the ground, pulling him further away from the car, then appearing to secure his hands behind his back. Let's go right now to MS Now's Will McDuffie. He is there in Maine for us, and immigration attorney and former ICE chief counsel Veronica Cardenas is with us as well. Will, tell me what you're hearing from people in Maine.
This is a sleepy town about 20 miles south of Portland. This happened on a hilly intersection in a residential area at 7 a.m. People were waking up. They were getting ready for work. I mean, the fact that this would happen is unfathomable, but at the same time, people are upset here because this is not the first time we've seen an incident like this. And also, ICE presence in Maine really ramped up earlier this year. So they're familiar with the presence of ICE officers here. And here at this park yesterday, there was a protest with a ton of people, including Senate candidates who showed up. And they actually walked up the hill behind me to a local Susan Collins office to protest. Now, I did speak to a couple eyewitnesses, including one gentleman on camera. Let's hear what he had to tell me.
I heard the kind of shotgun, and I just came out to see what happened, and first thing I saw was him and a lot of ice hands over there, and I saw his wife and his daughter crying. That was kind of weird, scary.
How has it made you feel?
I mean, they are killing our people,
Now, to give you an idea of how close that gentleman was to the scene, I mean, right outside his house is a makeshift memorial right now for the victim. And that gentleman, he knew the victim. He said he was a family man, had a beautiful family, a wife and a young daughter, both of whom he said were on the scene yesterday. That's how he was able to identify them. He said the victim was a delivery driver. He reportedly was driving to work. And Tony, it's just so tragic all around.
It's incredibly heartbreaking. Veronica, I want to get your reaction to what we just heard from that man there. As he's saying basically that it feels like ICE, that federal agents are going after us, his community. Given what we've seen happen in Maine, what we know is happening in Texas right now, there is continued outrage and protests over the killing of Salgado Araujo there. I want just your reflection on what's happened over the past 7 days.
Yeah, and I've frustration. We heard Lorenzo's son state that he went to lawyers before this incident happened to see how he could best comply. And when we look at Joan, one of his last statements was that I tried to stop. Have a very vulnerable immigrant community and their allies who are trying to comply with ICE directives, who are trying to comply with what ICE wants so that these situations do not happen. And there's so much focus on communities, right? Like even in the statement that was put out, this illegal alien, that is not true. This person was going through the process, Joan. He had a work authorization. He was going through the process that the administration has laid out for non-citizens to go through. So despite all of that compliance, we have DHS not being reckless at this point, but being very deliberate in focusing on the numbers at whatever cost and whatever comes with that.
That is Veronica Cardenas, you heard speaking right there, a former ICE assistant chief counsel. She's describing an institution driven by numbers. The administration wants arrests, leadership wants daily totals, field operations absorb that pressure, and the people encountered by agents become raw material for a production quota. That is how accountability breaks down. Every safeguard starts looking like an obstacle. Proper identification takes time. Clear commands take time. Confirming the target takes time. De-escalation takes time. A quota rewards speed. And when speed becomes the institutional virtue, human beings, they're the ones that pay the cost. Play the video.
And I thought that, the death of Renee Good, Alex Preddy, there was a new secretary stated that things may have been a little bit different. That was only 6 months ago. And we see now that there's a push for more arrests and nothing has changed. None of the officers had body. And it's the same rhetoric stating that, they try to weaponize vehicles instead of really looking at what ICE, what DHS must do to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, very quickly with our last few moments, can you explain what the policy is at ICE or what it's supposed to be about what you do when you are confronting or detailing someone who is in a vehicle?
The first thing is that they should be identifying themselves. Without that directive, then the person who's driving doesn't know. Like we spoke, non-citizens right now are targeted not only by ICE, but actors. Lorenzo's son stated that he had been the victim of a robbery before. And so it's really important that ICE identify themselves and state verbally the commands that they want the person to do. And if that's not done, then that would and escalates circumstances and leads to the deaths that we've been seeing. The other thing is that there shouldn't be shooting into vehicles, especially in these situations. I know the investigations are still ongoing, but what we've seen from the past, those shootings were not because it wasn't for officer safety. And in the case of Joan, ICE officers didn't even say it was for their own safety. It was for public safety.
And it certainly would help if we had body cameras in these cases, but we do not. Veronica Cardenas will.
Okay, so those safeguards, Veronica, we're talking about, just basic safeguards, almost common sense. Identify yourself, give clear commands, make sure the driver understands who is surrounding the vehicle. Keep officers away from the path of a moving car. Avoid firing into vehicles. Record the encounter. Preserve the evidence. The official justification in Maine reportedly referenced public safety. Okay, the government has to explain how firing through a windshield made the public safer. Okay, that requires evidence. Body camera footage would help in these cases. The agents were not wearing body cameras. So once again, the government asked the public to trust an account produced by the same institution defending the shooting. It's messed up, man. Let this video finish.
McDuffie, thank you both so much.
Oh, that wasn't left much, right? What are we doing? We pausing right here. Listen.
/Clay King Show.
Nah. We don't want to. Let's go back. Note to the editor. We're going to put an in and out point somewhere after this. I'm going to let this video play out again.
So son stated that he had been the victim
Give
of a
me my
robbery
edit
before.
in point.
And so
In
it's
the
really
meantime,
important that ICE identify
I want to say hello
themselves and
to
state
Maya.
verbally the commands that they want the
Thank you
person
for joining us,
to
Maya.
do. And
Karen McGee Puckett joined us. Lynette. Hello. I think we just had someone else enter the room. I'll go ahead and read that. Kara Gray says, as soon as they took off body cams, the shooting started up again with a vengeance. And Carrie, you just might have a point there. And I don't think a lot of it is intentional. It's just mostly psychological, okay? When you know there's a camera watching you, you're going to behave differently, just unconsciously. You're not going to do what you would normally do if you knew a camera wasn't there. You know, this is a everyday example I'm going to submit to you. Speed cameras, right? You know there's speed cameras in your city. You know you might run across. You know, I'm not driving thinking, oh my God, there's speed cameras. It's just subconscious, you know, after you've gotten one or two tickets. You know, you're going to lay off the pedal a little bit. Okay? See, Lynette says they proposed body cams in September 2025 and again in January 2026. And I think he said Congress come on. Oh, yeah. You're saying Congress, come on. You know, the hesitation there is that, okay, if we require ICE street officers or ICE, the ICE agents on the front lines to wear cameras, then all these other officers at federal agencies will be required to wear cameras. All right, so here's where we are with this. We got two fathers, they're dead. You know, both men were reportedly mistaken for somebody else. Witnesses in Houston remain in federal custody. Agents in both cases reportedly lacked body cameras. Local investigators may depend on federal cooperation to obtain evidence. And ICE has now suspended the vehicle stop tactic connected to these operations. So it looks like the policy has changed. The accountability question remains open, y'all. Now, before we move on to Texas, no, don't worry. There has been another shooting in Texas. We're talking about the Senate campaign. I want to just take 1 minute to ask you to support this desk, okay? On YouTube, listen, I have a very simple goal. I just want to get one subscription. Just give me one subscription tonight and a few likes on the YouTube side, okay? That matters enormously to a small channel such as this, okay? Please subscribe, hit that like button, and share this broadcast with one person who needs the map. Okay, my peeps on Substack, restack this live stream. I know you can't do it now. I'm talking about after I've gotten it edited, upload, and the article accompanying it, right? So you need to do that for me so it reaches people outside the immediate room, okay? And listen, paid subscriptions make this work possible, okay? I don't get a lot of sleep, y'all. This is all I do, all right? It funds the research, the video tools, all these apps, the transcripts, the editing, and the time required to follow a story after the national cameras move on, okay? And for people who cannot commit to a subscription, buy me a coffee remains the backstop that helps me to meet the daily production support floor. And listen, I want to thank you to every current paid subscriber. You are making all of this possible here. All right. So we're going to talk about James Talarico, the fact that he needs black voters, does he? Right? Who is funding black turnout? Interesting questions. See if we can find some answers.
.com/Clay King Show.
All right. Before we get to that, the stakes. We want to talk about the stakes in Texas. They are profoundly different. We are moving from lethal state power to electoral power. All right. And the explicit Voice of America diagnostic still applies here. Who receives resources? Who is expected to provide labor? Who gets treated as a partner? Who gets treated as an asset somebody else already owns? Now, my previous video focused on Vosh's attack on Jasmine Crockett. That video is kind of breaking out, I guess. It's already got 1,000 views after a couple of days. It's breaking out because people recognize the content immediately. Man, that Vosh character called Crockett a stupid B word. He demanded that Democratic media destroy her life. He accused her of holding black voters hostage, like, I guess in a cage or something, because she wouldn't immediately become James Talarico's campaign surrogate. Okay. And that video dealt with the language. And this update here deals with the budget, because the segment has now moved from social media into Black political infrastructure. Okay. Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones appeared on Roland Martin's program and issued a direct warning. She said the Talarico campaign and the Texas Democratic Party had invested in white political infrastructure and Hispanic political infrastructure while failing to make comparable investments in Black infrastructure. And her message was simple, okay? Meetings do nothing without action. Inspiration does not get the vote out. That's the charge she's making. This is no longer a vague complaint that James Talarico needs to connect better with Black voters. Jolanda Jones, she laid it down. She's describing money. She's describing media spending. She's describing polling. She is describing field operations. She is describing which organizations receive contracts and which organizations receive another meeting. Okay. Budgets reveal priorities. A campaign can praise Black voters all day. The payroll tells us whether the campaign considers Black turnout essential. And Clay Kane, who you're looking at here, responded by saying his show had sent the Talarico campaign 6 emails. Okay? 6 freaking emails. Clay said he wasn't demanding an appearance for personal validation. Okay. He just wants Texas to turn blue. And Texas cannot turn blue without stronger Black turnout. His warning was that his work should have started in March, not in July. Okay. Now it's July. That matters because political infrastructure cannot be assembled during the. Can you hold on? Okay, I'm sorry about that, y'all. Listen, Clay Kane, he just wants Texas to turn blue, and Texas cannot turn blue without that stronger turnout. Okay. The political infrastructure cannot be assembled during the final week of an election. You can't just walk into a Black church 7 days before election day, take a photograph, quote scripture, and call that a turnout operation. You need relationships. You need trusted people. You need data. You need transportation. You need organizers who know the neighborhood. You need people who understand which polling place closed, which voter was purged, and which rural road has no public transportation, which senior needs help getting identification, and which family has stopped believing that voting changes everything. Reese Colbert, who the looking at on the right there, she made this point clearly. When people hear the phrase "earn the Black vote," they act as though voters have presented some mystical demand, right? That nobody can understand. So, listen, the demands here are concrete. Hire field organizers, purchase reliable voter data, build contact lists, pay people to text, call, and knock on doors, advertise on Black radio, open offices in Black rural communities, hold listening sessions before the final stretch, work with Black churches, Black civic organizations, Black elected officials, and Black media. Pay local printers, pay caterers, pay transportation, local transportation providers, prepare for polling place closures, prepare for voter roll challenges, prepare lawyers for suppression tactics, build relationships with Black farmers and rural Black communities that campaigns regularly ignore. And reach out to Jasmine Crockett, like somebody who understands that a bruising primary requires repair. And that is what earn the vote means. It means build the machinery required to turn political preference into an actual ballot, okay? Black voters do not magically appear because the Republican opponent is terrible, okay? Fear can produce attention. Infrastructure produces turnout. Reese also made a comparison that every Democratic consultant should understand. Charlie Kirk's Turning Point operation paid people. They hired workers. You know what? Let's let her speak for herself. Go ahead and play the video.
YouTube.com/Clay King Show. Go over to YouTube right now. You can jump into the comments and all that good stuff. If you are in the comments, make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe,
and that you keep it cute.
And keep it cute, or you will get a full toots clapback. And I'm here with my girl Reese Colbert. Reese, in case people are a new subscriber to the Clay Kane Show, tell them about yourself and what you do, Reese.
Well, first of all, hey, New York Times bestseller.
Hey, now.
I'm Reese
Hey, First Lady.
Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show. Also on Sirius XM Urban View, Saturdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm riding solo these days, so y'all ride shotgun with me. Call into my show. I'd love to talk to y'all. And I'm creator of the Am I Trippin' card game and Sounds About Right card game. There are 2 card games, y'all. Stop ordering my card game that says Sounds About Right and tell me that I messed up. Okay. So, anywho, I also have a great new, very fun podcast called Am I Trippin'? You Be the Judge. I do it with my sister. New episodes come out Thursdays. We have a whole YouTube community on YouTube, Am I Trippin' Game. So subscribe and you will see me pop up in the comments having conversations with you all. We have shorts, we have full episodes. A new episode drops Thursday. And I appreciate the love and support because I look at the numbers, Clay, and we are punching way above our weight class to have 3,000 subscribers. There are channels that have tens of thousands of subscribers that haven't got the numbers that our videos have received. So I appreciate.
All right, let me go ahead and pause this before I forget. We have a comment on the YouTube side. You know, it's so rare I get comments that I sometimes miss it. So I apologize. Carrie JD, if I missed you, says, oh man, this was almost 20 minutes ago. Okay. She's talking about, looks like she's talking about there shouldn't be shootings at all here. Here, let me see. There we go. Right, I'm still kind of navigating my way on the YouTube side and how to get these comments up here on the window. So, hey, if y'all are watching, y'all want to submit a comment, go ahead and do so. I need to get some practice at this. You know, as far as my Substack peeps, we all got it covered. I'm good with them. I know how to look at the comments, comment back and forth. But YouTube is kind of a whole different world here because they have a whole architecture that lets you put comments up on the screen. So I need some practice with them. All right. So in the meantime, let's get back to the video.
Appreciate all of the support. Thank you. My hair is from Beck's Beauty. This is Burmese curly. Okay. Burmese curly chair, very low maintenance, honey. I love it, love it, love it. It's my summer hair. Okay.
Love it, love it. Appreciate you. I'm going to drop the link to subscribe to the Am I Trippin' podcast in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. Let's go to a couple callers today right now because I want to get to some topics. But folks, every line is lit, so I want to get the lines loosen up. Timothy, Texas. What's up, Timothy?
What's up, Clay? What's up, Reese?
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, my dad sits and watch them old classic movies all the time, man. He's 90 years old, and that Toots and Babyface, that's all from them old 20 and 30 movies, Cagney and what's the other guy's name? Humphrey Hope, Humphrey Bogart and all them guys. So
yeah.
So that was all of them. That's where they came from. Terms come from back in the day, buddy.
Oh,
I gotta find a Toots sound effect so I can play it.
That would be so classic. But I don't know. I think that you say it so
I do.
Iconic. I think people want to hear you say it.
It works. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate you. Thank you. Let's go over to Gail from Georgia. What's up, Gail?
Hey, Clay and Reese.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm first time caller here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I like to think that I'm one of your most loyal fans, though. I've been to each of your Beyond the Mic. Like every year I've gone. Every year I was at the Alexandria one. I think I was Black Trivia Quiz winner against my bestie Antonio.
Oh, I remember that. That was a hilarious Black Trivia quiz.
So good.
Oh, that was our first Black Trivia quiz.
Yes.
For Beyond the Mic, y'all. Y'all were such good sports, and your boy Antonio. Oh, he was a good time. He was a good time.
Both of y'all.
And I did receive your ticket because you decided to donate a ticket, correct?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it because I have a family reunion.
Okay.
But I definitely wanted to pay it forward and have someone else attend in my stead. I also, like, this is a funny story. I know you guys like matchmaking and everything. So I've been dating someone for about 2 weeks now. And I talk about you two so much. And I said, I hate I can't go to the Beyond the Mic this year. And she was like, oh, well, I'll go because she's in the area. So I will have someone else in the audience. So hopefully she'll get a chance to meet you all because she knows how much I love you guys.
Oh,
I love that. Is Antonio going to be there?
No, he won't be able to make it. Yeah, unfortunately. So,
well, we have the memories.
Yes. Oh yes. We'll come find you again. But I was in Atlanta also. I came for the book is amazing. Of course, Burned Down Master's House. I really enjoyed it. I came to the Decatur one and to the one in Atlanta. So it was awesome. So thank you for that. And last thing that was in the email, I just wanted to shout out my boy Fidelix. He reminds me of you because he's also a tourist, and he just dropped this new single called Believe. And I sent that in the email. You got to check that out because I think that you'd be able to relate with that energy. So I really appreciate everything you all
skip
do.
ahead a little bit.
So now it's right there. Like, what's the problem? Why don't you have the investment? It's clear as day. Jolanda Jones, she has no reason to lie about this. So we're ringing the alarm. It's July. His team should have been on this in March. And I want to see some kind of change. So she's saying it loud and proud. And I guess she was on your show this weekend, Reese. I wasn't able to listen this weekend.
Yes, honey. What you mean, I guess? Yes, she was on
I'm sorry.
my show.
I didn't know I wasn't able to listen to this weekend.
It's all good.
And I was out there doing things, you know.
I know. Look, you looked it busy, honey. Yeah. No, I agree. Well, she was on my show and we had this conversation because when people hear earn the Black vote, when people hear work for the Black vote, they act like this is some nebulous concept, some unreasonable request. But there are tangible things that can and should be done in order to win the Black vote. And let me give you guys an example. Since you might have some Talaricans in here. They see Jan Talarico chat, they come running. When I was at the White House for during CBC week, you were there too, Clay, for the Black Excellence Brunch, right? They did at the White House. And I ran into one of the leading Black organizations. And I said, oh, you guys must be doing real good with money now because they got the money. And she said, we have not gotten anything. And I bring that point up to say that Black voter turnout went down. And then on top of that, the margins went down too. So you have lower turnout and lower margins because the investment wasn't there. The investment was there in 2020 with the Biden-Harris campaign. Black Voters Matter. Remember they did the bus tour, Shell? They had DJs and shit. They had buses all around. And Black Voters Matter also gave money because they were flush with money to organizations that were on the ground.
Okay, that's key word right there. Flush with money. Okay, these are material concerns here. The campaign needs receipt. It does not need another speech about how important Black voters are.
So voters don't turn themselves out enough to win elections. You have the people who are going to vote no matter what. But there are people that need to be tapped. Hey, did you vote yet? What's going on? You know where your precinct is? Da, 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 da. There has to be that engagement. And that is something that other people have figured out when it comes to other people. But when it comes to Black people, the attitude is that the noble thing to do is to volunteer. Okay? So we have to be the ones to be noble. We have to be the ones to volunteer, to sacrifice. Otherwise, it don't mean shit. Meanwhile, it takes money to do the work of getting out the vote. It takes money to identify who you should even be contacting. One of the things that Jolanda Jones, Representative Jones, talked about is, she mentioned hit strategies. You, by contacting people, okay, this person, I definitely don't want to remind their ass of anything. Okay, I want to make sure that they're the last person to get a call. So there's data collection that happens so that you know who to tap into and who to turn out. And so that all costs money. And it's not greed. It is not, oh, you just want to get paid. It's just fucking practical. Okay? It's just practical. Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA.
I forgot to bleep out Reese here. Listen, we're all grown adults, all right? It is what it is. A few curse words ain't gonna kill you.
Them people get paid. They got these fucking whatchamacallits, and they out there with their goddamn clipboard, and they were out there in Ohio, okay, in all these states where Trump people won their primaries. It was Turning Point USA out there with their little fucking red hats and shit doing the work. And so the only thing that I'm saying is take emotion out of it. Let's just talk practically speaking. Do people have the capacity in this economy where you have 300,000 Black women lose their jobs automatically first couple months out the bat? So you have people who are unemployed, which means that you have fewer people that even have the time to volunteer their time. Don't think because somebody's unemployed, they ain't got shit to do. Them people is trying to get paid. They trying to figure out drive, Lyft, Uber, blah, blah, blah. My point is that it costs money for campaigns, money that these campaigns have. Talarico he's raised $70 million. Okay? 70 million. Just like I remember.
A lot of money for a Senate race.
Jamie Harrison, he raised what, $100 million? Amy McGrath. There are red states where they raise chicken and watermelon dinner shit. Okay. For 8 weekends for Kamala. And
I interviewed him. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to skip ahead here. But the point I wanted to make, I wanted to emphasize what Reese was saying there. Okay. Elections are won by expanding beyond the people who were already committed. Okay. That requires money, it requires organization. More important than that, it requires trust. And even trust has a budget. All right.
This on him, or is it, and we've had this conversation before with other candidates, Black and white, is this on him or is it his team? That's what I'm curious. Maybe it doesn't even matter. But is it the team not communicating with him the right way? I mean, I know a lot of people who've reached out to him. Is it him or is he in some Democratic consultant bubble? What do you think?
I will say the same thing about Talarico that I said about Vice President Kamala Harris. The buck stops with the person who is the leader of the campaign. I'm not interested in the consultants thing. Are you the motherfucker or not? I said the same thing about Kamala. I'm not, check the record, run the record back. My position and my conviction is the same. Are you that motherfucker or not? If you are, then you got to lead. You're gonna be the one voting, right? You're gonna be the one telling people you do this, you do that. This is what I want you to bring to me. So at the end of the day, there are strategic investments that are made. Now, there are people who decide strategically that the investment in Black voters is A, not worth it, or B, not necessary. They may say it's not worth it because, well, we can make it up with the white and Latino voters. Make white and Latino voters Democrat again. Remember that was the math? Or that it's not needed because, well, they're going to do it anyway. Because they know that, oh, God, the sky is going to fall. And, oh, God, we let the Republican win and won't. And so we have people that are going to do the work anyway. Robbie in NYC, he said that he knocked on doors. Now, he's obviously not in Texas, but my point is the same. He said he knocked on doors for 8 weekends for Kamala. And the people were telling him that Elon Musk was paying people. They was getting paid and they was getting scooters and shit to ride the fuck around. So I'm just saying people don't want to hear this. And I've been talking about infrastructure for years, Clay, years. People don't want.
Speaking of infrastructure and money, is it just me or did anyone else notice back in 2024 when all of these ads were flooding YouTube that they were just about 99% of them Trump ads? And I am not Republican. I'm not MAGA. 99.9% of the creators I watch are left wing. Yet I'm not seeing any ads that I can even remember from Kamala Harris. It was just flooded. Every minute scintilla of advertising was a MAGA ad for Trump. So they were up in and inside of these spaces on the internet, on YouTube. Democrats were not. And that's just my observation. That may be anecdotal. If anyone else can confirm that, go ahead, hit me up in the chat. Hit me up on Substack. Hit me up on YouTube. Play the video.
Hear that y'all don't want PAC money, you don't want corporate this, you don't want all this shit. It costs money to win elections. And I'm not saying that to be pro PAC money or to be pro any kind of money. I'm just saying that it costs money to win. And if you make the right investments with the money that you raise, then you take home the win. If you blow the shit up, maybe you spend all of it on fucking campaign ads that nobody watches, or maybe you spend all of it on consultants, then you lose. But stop expecting the Blacks, whether that's an elected like Jasmine who ain't on the ballot, or whether that's the activists, or whether that's the our grandmas and our aunties and our uncles and our grandpas that work the polls. Stop expecting the Blacks to do every fucking thing for free when there's money out there and it's being paid to activate other constituencies. That's all that I'm saying. Let's not have a 3/5 rule when it comes to activating the Black community.
And again, as I was saying yesterday, I believe in higher voter turnout. Texas had the second lowest voter turnout in 2024, which is heartbreaking. And there have been candidates who have worked their ass off and there still wasn't high enough voter turnout. But that doesn't negate that you have to still push and try for this demographic. You're not going to get 95% voter turnout. But if you can get a couple of more percentage points higher than Beto O'Rourke, then you can win.
Yeah.
If you could top what Colin Allred got, who you always pointed out, he got more votes than any other Democrat running for Senate in Texas, then you can win, right? It's possible, but you got to invest in that turnout, and this should have been happening in March. So I'm ringing the alarm because I hope people see it and talk about it and make it happen, because this campaign is behind. This campaign is behind. And for her to say that, Rep. Jones, leads me to believe that some people aren't listening. And I don't know how you don't know this.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't know this in Texas.
It's known, but it's just the calculation. But let me just sum it up in 30 seconds, because somebody says, how should he use his money in the Black community? Okay. Nobody is saying hand out fried chicken and watermelon dinner shit. Okay. What we're saying is that you have to hire field organizers. Maybe they already have field organizers. Okay. That's fine. Check the box. More. So field organizers, you need data collection. That's one of the things that Representative Jones is talking about with his strategies. You have to be able to identify, cost money to request data on voters, right? My husband, who ran for mayor, he had to pay money to Prince George's County to get a roster of people who are registered in this county and who are eligible to vote. When you have data on who's registered, when you have data on whether they voted the last election, the last 5-6 elections, then that is valuable information that can then be used to develop a touch point list for field organizers. When my husband...
I see you, Gary. Or sorry, Carrie Grace. You say that in the South Carolina primary, only 25% of registered voters turned out. That, for a primary election, that sounds like a lot. Usually primary elections are some of the lowest turnout elections you'll ever see. So I'm surprised it was more than 10%. Lynette in the chat says, I think there is less turnout for primary. Yeah, there is. You're right, Lynette. And non-presidential years in general. Okay, let's go back and play the tape.
And if he's gonna print up 100 flyers and he has 200 houses, he's going to go to the 100 houses that are registered, number one, and that have voted. He's not gonna spend any of his flyers on motherfuckers who ain't registered and don't vote. So information is valuable, but it costs money to get information. And then it costs money to activate people. All I'm saying is that oftentimes, and we usually have, I volunteered with Collective PAC and some of these other organizations, and I sent text chat in 2020. What was one debate over in 2022? Oh, my ass was texting Stacey Abrams for governor, Beto for senator, Andrew Gillum for Wisconsin. All that shit was volunteer, and that was outside of these campaigns. But when campaigns have money, okay, then that money needs to go to tangible. We're not talking pie in the sky. We're talking the election apparatus where you need to pay people to activate the voters.
I'll add a few things too. You have to open up field offices in Black rural areas, not just the urban areas. You have to open up field offices in Black rural areas. You have to have listening sessions and town halls, and those have to include voter education. Obviously, we're getting kind of, to the limit here, but higher voter turnout means higher voter registration as well. You can also pay local printers and caterers, have transportation services ready for Black voters to get particular areas. We all know in Texas, polling locations have been shut down. There are all these things that you can do that you can really invest in. I mean, obviously, Black advertisement is important, Black radio and all that good stuff.
Black radio is huge.
But you also want to hire local Black organizers to go out there and canvass, to go out there and be in the field. These are all the places, and I'm really glad that MILB asked this question, because what happens when you invest? That's what it looks like. Now, you obviously want to get a return on your investment, but these are key things that you can do. And they keep saying it in the comments, and I agree with you. Black rural areas, they are often ignored. often ignored. And that's all over Texas. There are black farmers in Texas. How are you going to invest in that area? And I mean,
And then
those
yard signs is another thing. People that you
Yard
think people
signs.
gonna spend $30 on a yard sign? Hell the fuck no. But if you show
Right.
up with a yard sign, you might have people who are willing to put yard signs on their on their yard, on their yards. I know. Look, we just had primaries and shit. I said, oh God, I done seen certain names 11 times. And there's some people I was like, well, I don't think I ever saw a yard sign. Now, is that gonna influence my vote? No. But it's visibility. It's those are the kind of
If you
things.
drive down a block and all the yard signs say one person, that does help.
It helps.
And also, you have to have a presence.
And I agree with that. Yard signs do make a difference. Look, it's just repetition. How many of y'all have walked into that voting booth without doing your homework? You got a list of names. You don't know one name from the other. They're just names on a piece of paper. But then you remember, okay, I remember that yard sign at the corner, the stop sign in my neighborhood. And then there was another yard sign, stop sign, corner. And yeah, there's another yard sign. You know, subconsciously, it's there's a familiarity when you've seen names on yard signs and you ain't done your homework. And let's just be real, 90% of voters do not do their homework, okay? Don't do that, y'all, okay? Pull up the names, you know, try to familiarize yourself with what the issues are, what they're promoting before you walk into that voting booth, okay? You shouldn't be voting on the number of yard signs. I just want to put that out there. Play the video.
Before Election Day.
Mhm.
You can't just show up to a church service or a rally a week before an election. You have to already have a presence there. That's important. That's how you show an investment in the community. Again, we're in July, so you're already kind of far behind, but these are things that you could do tomorrow.
Absolutely. Lynette said maybe way back, explicit, went into the voting booth without doing my homework, but so easy to do it now that we carry a computer with us and our mobile phone. Exactly. Yeah, there's no excuse for being so lazy that you just draw, you know, show up in a voting booth and not know who you're voting for. Okay, yeah. You get the sticker for showing up. But that shouldn't be the standard. Play the video.
Tomorrow, you could do this tomorrow. Exactly, Du Bois. Black people feel ignored in those areas, and they feel like folks don't care about them. You also have to make sure you're planning in advance for voter suppression tactics, because you saw what happened with Jasmine Crockett in is it called Dallas County or Harris County? In that county where there was these votes that appeared to have not been counted. Are you preparing for that? But let me tell you something. Corrupt Ken Paxton, you know he's ready for that. Exactly. You know he's ready to have some voter suppression tactics. Are you planning for all of that? That should already be preemptive strikes to make sure that things that happen in the primary, they do not happen in the general. And you should have reached out to Jasmine Crockett March, April. How can we work together? How can we make this happen? Do you want to work together? How can we make this happen? And if you didn't, there are plenty of Roland Martin, who's from Texas. Like, how can you collaborate with people to make this in unison in community?
Somebody said, what does investing in Black voters look like in July? Rewind, because we literally laid out at least a dozen examples, at least a dozen. Because what
and
happened,
we also own July is late. We also own that. We understand.
Yeah, but who's fault is that? Who told you to wait till motherfucking July to put some goddamn yard signs in on hire field organizers and get on Black radio? That we helping you. You haven't done it yet, so you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? So yes, people had James Talarico did have a meeting. He had an event. That's great. We just laid out 20 things. 20 things.
And Yolanda Jones said these things aren't happening.
But you know what? He's doing everything that he's supposed to do. He's got it under control. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to us. What the hell do we know? So there we go.
I want to be clear about something. Someone like me, Reese, we don't need those things to convince us to vote. We're going to vote either way.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that don't need that.
Yeah.
But we've always talked about the non-voter. Reese's always talked about the margins when it comes to voting.
Mm-hmm.
Utilizing, what do you say? Utilizing, capitalizing on your power. I forgot your exact language, Reese. But it's not for us.
We vote our capacity. Mm-hmm.
Vote our capacity. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Voting our capacity. So what's the work that you're doing to try to ensure that people who are not like us, I'm gonna vote for freaking dog catcher. But I'm well aware there are people who aren't doing that. So
but you know what,
that's all that I'm saying. What?
We don't know. They know you doing all the stuff. Nothing to see here, folks. So go get them, Tiger. Yeah.
That's what
that's
it is.
fine.
So,
I'm so happy that he completely. You don't have to apologize. I was just sometimes people.
No, it's all good.
Are watching and they don't pay attention, and so they ask, and I'm like, okay. But if you just came in PC, that's my bad. I didn't mean to rip your head off.
All good.
But at the end of the day, if he's already doing everything that we said, guess what? Shouldn't be a problem that we saying it. He got it under control.
Mm-hmm.
Good. We're not having this conversation about John Ossoff. We're not having this conversation about other people, but he got it under control.
Are you picking up on that, John?
I want to go to
Reese
a call here, but really quick.
Hey,
Reese is being facetious and kind of a little cynical. Okay.
I just want to.
Comments.
Oh, what up, Larry? What up, Larry? Really quick, I just want to. There have been so many amazing reviews for Burn Down Master's House, and Black Book Talk has just been incredible for Burn Down Master's House.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
They have given the reviews
Which, by the
that
way,
the mainstream
sounds
quote
like a
unquote
good
outlets
book. I need
have
to
not
put
given.
on my reading list, but
and there
that's
is
not,
a young woman.
Why we're here?
Her handle on.
What was the movie that the black lady played in?
Didn't come to Chicago, and Reese and I were very hurt. Are you going to show up, right?
All right. So I think we're done with that. I'm going to try to wrap this up. Look, this is the final verdict, okay? James Talarico says he needs black voters, right? And black leaders, black influencers, thought leaders, they're telling him exactly what the campaign must build. The campaign has resources. The question is who gets paid, all right? Black turnout is infrastructure. It is field. It is data. It is media. It is transportation, voter protection, rural organizing, local knowledge. It is relationships built before the emergency. Black voters belong to themselves. Okay, Jasmine Crockett does not own them. Vosh does not own them. The Democratic Party does not own them. James Talarico has to earn them. Okay? The nominee owns the repair. Now, on YouTube, help me reach tonight's goal of I just need 1 subscriber and 1 like. Okay? That's it. I'm asking you on YouTube, subscribe, like the video, and share it with somebody who needs to see how these stories connect. On Substack, go ahead and restack this broadcast after I get it uploaded. I saw that YouTube lever click away as soon as I asked for that like. Like asking for a like when you're a small YouTuber is like asking for $1 million, right? I don't know what it is. But hey, tap that like. Yo, I could use a like right now. Subscribe. Back to my Substack peeps. Restack this broadcast. Send it to one person who needs the map. Paid subscriptions. And I thank my paid subscribers. That's how I've gotten this far. That's how I've gotten this a little more sophisticated than I was 6 months ago. Okay, all of this stuff takes time, man. I don't sleep. I take naps, but I don't sleep. I'm doing this. So paid subscriptions keep me in the chair at the desk doing research. Buy Me a Coffee remains the backstop for people who don't want to commit to a monthly or yearly subscription. Okay, hey, look, as much as $2, $3, $4, $5 really helps. Okay, 10 of you giving $5, that makes a huge difference. Okay, so again, thank you to the paying readers who keep this desk alive. Okay, and for those of you listening on YouTube, check me out. Check out the Substack. I back up everything. Okay, every video comes with a substantive write-up that could stand alone by itself, right? It's not just a transcript. It is a substantive post that stands alone by itself with sources. 99% of the videos I make. Okay, you don't have to watch the video. You can just read, or if you don't want to read, you can watch the video. So thank you for the paying subscribers who have helped keep this alive. Thank you to everyone who watched tonight. And remember, do not ask Black voters to save Texas on unpaid labor. It's getting tired. It's time to wrap this up. All right. Build the infrastructure, pay the people, protect the vote. I'm just read a few more notes here. Lynette says, I woke up to you this AM on my Substack. I don't understand how some find me and others don't find for days later, sometimes a month here on Substack. It's called the algorithm, Lynette. Tap, 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 tap. Hard for you, explicit. Thank you, thank you. Carrie Grace said, you are hard to find on YouTube. Okay. Just remember the name, Explicit. Explicit.com. That's why I've got my own website. I'm not dependent on YouTube. Well, I am kind of, sort of, because I got the domain through Substack. But, if you don't have the app, you don't have access to the app, and you don't want to dig through Substack, you can always just www.explicit.com. You can get everything, access everything through the publication website. Lynette says, Stacey Abrams has an E in her name. Sorry, I don't know what that's about. See, Stacey Abrams, I hope Texas has like at least 50 Stacey's. Yeah, Stacey Abrams, she's a monster, man, when it comes to voter turnout. Well, what would it be like if we had like 10 Stacey Abrams? And we'd have all levers of government locked up. Make sure I get all the messages. Okay, I think I've got them all. That's it. I got to go get something to eat. Thank you for joining us. You guys have a good evening. Oh, wait, hold on. To go to channel. Let's see. I got a message on YouTube here. All right. So let's show it. She says, Terry JD, I know, but I have to go to your channel to find you live. Maybe notifications will work next time. Okay, so YouTube is kind of, they make you go through these additional steps to actually get a notification. You can't just hit the subscribe button. You have to go further and click notifications, right? So it's like 2-3 steps. Click subscribe, and then I think there's a drop down list under the subscribe button where you hit notifications. Okay, so hope that helps. All right, y'all. Over and out. You guys have a nice night. I'll see y'all tomorrow.